Okay, someone's going to dive straight in, and we'll take it. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting conversation, and hopefully you two find it interesting as well. So here's my introduction. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. The podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is Luke and Lauren Bertram. Now, they are a husband and wife physio and podiatry team. Their name of their business is Physiopod. They are in central Geelong. So Lauren and Luke, welcome to the Podiatry Legends podcast. I almost forgot the name of my show. How embarrassing would that be?
Thanks, Tyson. Thanks for having us on.
No, it's good to have you here because I know physios and podiatrists try to work together. They try to create a good relationship, and sometimes they work together really well and sometimes not so well. Having a husband and wife podiatry physio team is not, there's probably others around the country, but you're the first couple that actually know. So that's why I thought it was great to get you both on here.
Yeah, great. Yep.
So for starters, just need to figure out, how did you two meet?
So not to do with health reasons. No. Yeah. So we met at horse races.
At the races.
We'll get ag races.
Yeah.
Okay. So like gambling horse races?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there with a friend, and then Luke was on an end of season footy trip, and we met at the pub in Wagga Wagga.
Was this after the race day?
No, it's before.
Before, yeah.
Oh, right. So Luke would have still been fine. He would have been respectable by then. If you had met him at the end of the race day, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite funny that we then found out that we both worked in health, and we're both physios and podiatrists already at the time. And then now we're married. So it's funny how things work out.
So the plan when you first met, and then like Luke being a rugby player, was it hard to deal with, or were you a rugby fan?
Yeah, I'm from Geelong, so Victorian, but and Luke's obviously from New South Wales, but I lived and studied in Queensland for 10 years. So I was around rugby league a fair bit, but Luke plays rugby union. But no, I'm interested in all sports. So AFL has obviously been a background being a Victorian, but no, it was great. Yeah, it was good to see him play, and he doesn't play much now because we're too busy at work. But
and the body doesn't take it anymore.
Well, that's what your profile said on your website, that you were too old now. How old are you now, Luke? I've never asked.
33 now.
Yeah, I stopped playing. I was 32 when I stopped.
Yeah.
And it was only because I was getting married that year, and my wife said, I prefer you didn't come down walk into the church with crutches. And not that I'd ever been injured before. I'd never had a major injury, dislocated shoulder. You can get married with a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, no black eyes.
Yeah, so that year, at 32, I decided I'm going to take up soccer. I didn't realize how much skill was involved. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't sometimes. But I made a really good goalkeeper because I just loved running into people. So that part wasn't a problem. So at what stage, so you met each other, you obviously both worked in different practices, in other people's practices. Then you got married, still worked in other people's practices. When did the light go off that you should actually work together?
Well, it's kind of, we were, I was in Wollongong at the time, and Lauren got a job up in Bowral, in my hometown.
Okay.
And she was working there for about a year or so. Then she moved down to Wollongong and opened up her own practice down there. And because we were together, we referred back and forth, different referrals and things. We already had relationships around with other physios and stuff, but keep it.
Oh, so you guys so when she moved to your hometown, or in that area where you were both working, you had a relationship formed then already?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you referred a patient, did you say, I'm just going to refer you to my girlfriend? Or you said, I'm just going to refer you to...
You kept that secret? No one ever knew.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the town, nobody knew. So other physios in that area didn't know that you guys were
they did. But we tried to keep it professional with the patients. Yeah, obviously referring them for a reason, not just sending them for the sake of it.
Because she was very good at what she does. That's why I sent people to her.
Yeah, well, I did read on your profile on your website, Lauren, that you've gone to Winter Olympics and you were looking after like the bobsled team and those just crazy people that go head first down that luge.
Yep. Yeah, crazy. So skeleton, so where they go head first. So I worked with them for 3 years leading up to and then attending the Sochi Winter Games in 2014, which was just amazing. My background is in snow skiing myself, but I got involved as a physio with the Winter Olympic team and got to travel around the world with the skeleton team, which was just, they're crazy. Like they just go so fast with just a helmet on. I learned a lot as a physio, but just being part of a sporting team like that. Yeah. So they were through the AIS. So in Canberra, they were a funded program through there. So got to attend Canberra at the AIS quite a few times. It was just amazing working. Yeah. And that's probably part of also sort of why we do what we do, is that both Luke and I have worked in settings where it is that multidisciplinary approach to care. Yeah. That some people think that they can do everything. And I definitely know what I'm good at and know what I'm not good at. So that's where, again, Luke and I are wanting to do something together that, Luke's expertise is in the foot and ankle. It's not my expertise, even though we obviously know about it. So I'd prefer to send someone to Luke so that they're getting the best care instead of me offering something that's suboptimal for that. The Olympic stuff is pretty cool.
And I saw the photo on the website. I'm thinking that would have been pretty cool. So when you were treating injuries on that, like obviously if they came off, it was probably going to be multiple injuries. Were there many injuries while you were actually looking after the team?
There was a few, So the athletes I looked after were the World Cup athletes. So they were the best in the business, which is strange coming from Australia because we don't have ice or bobsled tracks here.
Stranger coming from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Cool Runnings. How good is that movie? Cool Runnings is a great movie.
Yeah, and they do have a Jamaican bobsled team. So so skeleton, the idea of skeleton, it's been around for centuries in Europe, but it was about probably 15, 20 years ago now in Australia that someone at the AIS did a talent identification search where they saw skeleton as a sport and tried to find sports in Australia that replicate what you have to do for skeleton. So you have to run bent over pushing a sled for 50 meters, so sprinting, and then jump on the sled and obviously go down the track. So they recruited a lot of athletes from surf lifesaving actually. So
okay.
Yeah, so just to replicate more so like when they do flags in surf lifesaving, so that bent over, hamstrings really on stretch position. Just explosive athletes. So they were sprinters or lots of surf lifesaving. So in terms of injuries, they would get a mix of things, like running type injuries. So from that start, they would get Achilles, calf, hamstring. But then when they're on the sled, so they have to be in that extended position, obviously keeping their head and legs off the ice. They get head and neck, lower back stuff. But lots of concussion. So not so much from hitting their head, because they were so good, these athletes, they really didn't crash. But when they go down the bobsled track or a skeleton track, they get lots of non-impact type concussion symptoms. So because they're going at about 150 kilometers an hour and getting about 4 G-forces of pressure on their head.
Crazy.
It's insane. So their head actually can get pushed down into the ice, and so that can cause vibration through their head and neck. And so they'll get to the bottom of the track and have concussion type symptoms. Lots of head and neck.
And they say playing rugby league and rugby union and even doing kickboxing is dangerous, but there's no way I'd go down a sled at 150 kilometers an hour. That is.
Couple of centimeters away from the ice. Yeah.
So, Luke, you worked over in the UK for a little while. Were you in a clinic that had a lot of other professions in there as well?
In NHS, so not so much MSK, but dietitian, high risk, wound care nurses, and diabetes educators, that type of thing, and GPs.
Yeah.
So it was all multidisciplinary that way over there.
So why did you go to the UK? Was it just like a 2-year stint, like a bit of a work experience and holiday at the same time?
Pretty much, yeah. My dad's English, so I got a British passport, so I could work as much as I liked. I didn't need a visa or anything, so it was always going to happen.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, travelled for a year and worked for a year, and then travelled in and out, and picked up a bit of money in the NHS, which was really good experience.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot of graduates do, they might work for a year in Australia, but they've always got a plan that they want to go to the UK and work over there.
Yeah, it was always a plan to do that.
Yeah, I never got around to it. It was one of those things that you think about doing, but I just didn't actually do it. Now you sort of go, well, it would have been fun to have done that for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's really worth it. And a lot of people come the other direction too, from the UK, come over.
Oh, yeah.
Here and do a similar thing.
Well, they all want to come over here. They sent us over here as convicts. And now they've realised, hang on, we stayed in the UK and we sent the convicts to the sun and surf and sand. What were we thinking? They should have all come over here and they just left the convicts over there.
Yeah.
And now anyone in the UK, if I've just upset you, I'm sorry. UK is nice. It's historical. It is very nice, actually. I was there 2019, but it was my first trip, only in Liverpool and then Deptford and then Oxford. But I really liked it. It was I can see the appeal why people want to go there and just tour around and work for 2 years.
Yeah. I worked in Bournemouth and Poole for about 6 months around Dorset and on the south coast.
Yeah.
And that's really nice place. Loved it down there.
I remember seeing a surf movie and it was based in the UK. There were UK surfers. It was a I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was a crazy movie that these guys, freezing cold, would put on their wetsuits and then go out there and hit these waves.
Yeah. And
there's everybody else on the beach and they've got these big jackets on, just trying to keep warm, and they're in the water surfing away. It's nuts.
Off the coast of Wales, there's supposed to be southwest corner of Wales. There's meant to be a big wave event there, I think. They get pretty good waves there. Freezing cold,
all I think cold water, big sharks. So, so you're both in the same area in Australia. Then you were boyfriend, girlfriend before you got married. Then you got married. What made you decide, let's do it together? Let's put our minds together and create our own business?
Well, I suppose it was just talking about it all the time and talking about patients and stuff, and how'd you do this and how was such and such that I referred to you. And then we thought, well, because Mrs. Jones is having to go to Lauren to see her about something that I referred her to.
Yeah.
She's had to make an appointment to go see the physio and then come back to me, which could be 2-3 weeks in between appointments. So we thought, well, we're always going to move down to Geelong to start our married life down there.
Yeah, I was going to say, why Geelong? What made you say that Geelong was a place to go to?
Yeah, so because I'm from here, so my family are all here still.
Okay.
And Luke's family were near where we were living. But yeah, we could have done the business together in Wollongong. I had my own business there, but Luke had worked for another company in close proximity for a long time, and I guess just with trade restrictions and stuff like that, we'd always planned to come to Geelong, to get married and then to live here, just because we thought it was a good place to settle down.
Yeah.
And also a good place to start the business. So it was.
Yeah, it's kind of a fresh start.
So prior to moving to Geelong, setting up the business together, when you were husband and wife in separate clinics, Luke, did you say to your patients, I'm going to refer you to my wife?
No.
No, you still didn't?
No. Well, we weren't married at that time. We
got married when you got to Geelong.
Yeah.
Okay.
After we started the business. But while we're in Wollongong, no, I never said, I'm sending it to my wife. Said, to
the person I'm going to marry and have children with one day.
There's a physio I'd like you to see. She's one of the best in town.
Even now, like there's some people that don't know we're married now. And I think if I want someone to see Luke, I'll say, I'd recommend seeing Luke, our podiatrist. I never, we never go straight out. Like then they'll later figure it out, or they'll see it on the website or something. But I think just trying to keep it really professional, and it's fine that people know we're married, but it's sort of, we don't sort of start out with that.
My wife used to we worked together. She was working at the reception, running the clinic. And I remember her being at the front counter, the reception one day, And a patient comes through and sees me. He says, geez, your receptionist is all right. I said, yeah, I know. And he goes, I mean, she's really nice. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, so do you ever, like, try and hit on her? And I went, what, like hit on the receptionist? He went, yeah. I went, yeah. He goes, do you ever get lucky? I went, yeah, a few times. He goes, oh, seriously? He said, how did you manage that? And I said, I had to marry her. And next thing they pause and went, oh, is that your wife? I went, yeah. He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, I still think, yeah, it's a compliment that you think you're great. I've chosen the right person. So, and that used to happen a few times. And sometimes I'd just stretch it out and really make them just dig a deeper hole for themselves. So my wife hates it when I tell that story, but it's true. So once you started working together, were there any teething things? Because a really common thing that I've heard, when a podiatrist and a physio might be working, say, in a medical center, and all the phone calls come through to one place. And a common thing is someone rings up and they say, oh, I've got ankle pain. Who do they see? Because I know in a medical center, when you're not husband and wife or anything like that, there has to be some rules, I suppose, in place on who do they see. So what happens in your situation?
Yeah, it's a kind of an anatomical thing. It's kind of knee down goes to podiatry.
Okay.
And then everything else up would be physio. But ordinarily, because we ended up working together in that situation of who does someone see based on their symptoms, we decided to do a joint appointment where it's both of us at the same time.
Oh, that's cool.
So and a lot of the times it's, I've got a sore toe or I've got a sore ankle, but my back's sore as well. So we, two birds with one stone, we just put it together, and we do a joint appointment at the same time, and then kind of nut out what the cause of the back is and what the cause of the foot or the ankle is, and go from there, try and find the source of it rather than just going for the ankle or going for the back.
Yeah. Okay. So if I rang up and said, oh, I've got an Achilles problem.
Yeah.
The receptionist straight goes, oh, we'll book him with the podiatrist. But if I said, oh, no, I wanted to see the physio for this particular problem, they would then say, okay, we'll make the physio appointment. Or they say, oh, no, we'd like you to see the podiatrist first.
Oh, yeah, our receptionist is very good. So she can triage it quite well, but that's kind of why we developed this joint appointment. So we call it the collective body consult. So it's where it's for an hour and the patient comes in and they get both of us for the full hour together. And so something like that, like, so she would then say, okay, we offer this appointment, which, it's obviously a bit more expensive because you're getting the two of us together. So we give the patient the option whether they want to do the joint appointment, or Luke would be the first offer if it was, say, Achilles or ankle. But like Luke was saying before, with the joint appointment, like someone might present with back pain, like it might just be back pain, and they'll initially think that, oh, I see the physio for that. But that again is where the receptionist would suggest. So we basically say anything from the pelvis, so lower back, pelvis, hip down, that we do that joint appointment for. Because it could just be back pain that are their symptoms, but it could definitely be coming from their feet. So that's sort of how we do it that way. Sometimes, I might get the patient and then they might be better off seeing Luke. So then we would just book a follow-up appointment that way. But we haven't had really too many issues. I think, like some physios, like ankle obviously is a really common thing that we do treat, but like I was saying before, like Luke is the expert in foot and ankle, so I prefer them to see Luke, and then I could maybe come in for some other rehab stuff or something. But it works really well. We haven't really had any issues with people not knowing who to book in with.
And if they're booking online when they're booking online as well, they kind of find that, and when they come in and say, oh, that's a really good idea, I wouldn't have thought of that. It's good to do both at the same time to kind of cover both bases. So,
and they claim, so when they claim from the health fund, they would half the appointment would be split with Lauren and half the appointment, so they can claim on both visits
at the same time.
So what do you call it? A body collective appointment?
Yeah, collective body
Oh,
consult.
collective body collective sounds like you're collecting bodies and putting them at the back. That's terrible, isn't it? Collective body appointment. Sound like serial killers. So because the reason I think this is really important, the thing I picked up from what you've done, you've pretty much drawn a line in the sand, but that line, because it's in sand, not in concrete, unlike Jimmy Hoffa. Luke, you might get that joke.
I get that. Yeah.
Lauren's going, I have no idea what you're talking about. Look up Jimmy Hoffa, then that joke will make sense.
Okay.
The anyone that's done the 12-week reboot will know what that joke's all about, because I think it's funny, but nobody else gets it. So, but you've drawn a line in the sand saying, well, this is what we're going to do as physios, this is what we're going to do as podiatry, but that line can move slightly if you think that both ears are needed. So I think podiatrists that are in places that work with physios could actually learn a lot from this, sitting down with them and talking about it. Where does the line, where is the line on who treats what?
Yeah, and we found it to be more and more blurred the more we've done these joint appointments, because we might have, especially like lower back, hip stuff, that might have booked in with Lauren to see that, even women's health, because Lauren's a women's health physio. She gets a lot of pelvic pain patients.
Yeah.
And then she might find something with the toe, like a hallux limitus or things like that. And then she refers to me, or I come in and have a quick look, and then they end up seeing me, and then we try and treat the hallux limitus a bit, or leg difference. And then that ends up impacting their hip pain or lower back or pelvic pain.
So to make both of you being more aware, though, wouldn't it, of what the patient presents with? So somebody presents with Luke, and they say, "Oh, pain in the hallux," and while he's testing that out, and then he asks the question, "Oh, do you get any lower back pain? Do you get any other problems?" And they go, "Yes." Okay, you need to see Lauren. And if Lauren has someone coming in with lower back pain, I would say as part of your evaluation, Lauren, even when they've booked in purely just to see you, you would probably have a quick look at the feet, and if you notice anything, you go, or you might ask, "Oh, do you have any problems in your ankles or feet?" And they go, "Yeah, I do actually." Then once again, they see Luke.
Yeah, 100%. That's like exactly how we work. So we're definitely more that holistic view of the patient, that, they'll come in with a symptom, but, asking all the questions. So like head to toe, what are their other symptoms, or what are their past injuries? Like they might have had an ankle, lateral ankle sprain 20 years ago, and they think it's irrelevant to their current back pain or whatever it might be. And even, the pelvic floor stuff. So I'm a sports and a women's health physio. And so I get a range of patients, but even pelvic floor incontinence issues and stuff like that, there's a big link with the foot as well to that. So particularly with restricted ankle range. So there can be a link as to how strong that pelvic floor can activate based on how their gait is, or how they're moving. So which is, there's just such a huge correlation both ways that, I think if you're not looking at the whole picture, you'll miss out on these things. So
you were saying ankle range of motion and incontinence are linked.
Yeah, they can. Yep. And
I know a lot of weeing women that have had children who that's something that's never come up before.
Yeah, so there's some more recent studies that they've done on ankle position. So, and even it's relevant for like weight training people as well. So they proved that if someone has increased ankle plantar flexion, so if they're wearing heels, or if they say squat with their heels elevated on weight plates or something, that's harder for the pelvic floor to get a maximal contraction. So in those instances, people are better off wearing flatter shoes. Let's say they have tight calves or something like that. So addressing that can improve their pelvic floor function, which is just crazy. And
that's a real common problem.
Oh, it is. It's a huge problem. And then there's a few other studies they did on foot flexibility and rigidity. So like with landing, say for running, that if someone has a more rigid foot, that they will have less pelvic floor control and things like that. So there's like, someone might present to me with incontinence, but if I'm not looking at that, well, then I'm not picking up, well, what's causing this incontinence to happen. So it's such a big kinetic chain, obviously. It's all linked together.
Which is a big thing postnatal. A lot of women, they're exercising a lot during pregnancy, before pregnancy, and then they want to get straight back into training. And then a lot of the time, depending on which pregnancy it's been, second or third, usually the relaxin hormone has a bigger effect.
Yeah.
So you end up with a kind of bit more of a wider, longer foot, a bit more lax. So your shock absorption isn't as great. So then they want to get straight back into running, looking at the foot and ankle and addressing that with footwear, running technique, strength, orthotics if needed, plays a pretty big role, even with incontinence when they're getting back to running, which is something I'd never even crossed my mind before I met Lauren. So I've learned so much north of the foot and ankle since working with her.
I was going to say that.
Really broadened my knowledge of it.
Yeah. Have you both, because I was going to say, have you both learnt a lot from each other and even though when you were, say, secretly seeing each other behind your patient's back, on weekends and all that, you were probably talking about different issues and learning a little bit, but actually working together in the same clinic and then having joint appointments and talking about your patients together, I take it you've both learned a lot from one another.
Yeah.
Heaps. Yeah, like so much. Yeah, things that
So Lauren, what's the biggest thing you've, since being with Luke, what's the biggest thing you've learned about podiatry that you were unaware of prior to sleeping with a podiatrist? That should be the snippet. That should be the snippet I put out as a promotion for this show.
Heaps. I guess the foot mobilization stuff, Luke does a fair bit of that. So we obviously do mobilizing as a physio, but foot related stuff, I didn't know a lot about that. So that's something that I've definitely learned. And just like gait assessment stuff, like we all look at people walk, but what are you actually looking at? And just breaking it down and really getting to the nuts and bolts of that. So the biomechanics sort of stuff.
That's been a big one, that the gait, we both look at gait assessment for however long we have to look for. And then Lauren might pick up something that I've missed. Yeah. And the other way around. So I'd look and kind of give a bit of a nod, and then she'll point to a shoulder or a hip, and then I'll look at it and go, oh yeah, that's doing this or doing that, which I would have probably missed. Even though you're kind of scanning top to bottom, you miss things all the time. So there's those little 1%ers that end up adding up in the long
make
run.
The difference for the patient.
Yeah.
So with podiatrists and physios, I can see like in the future, podiatrists and physios teaming up together, like how you're working. You don't have to marry each other, but they could actually have a really close, open, it sounds terrible, an open relationship with each other in the practice. But like I said, have that line drawn on what we do together, what's yours, what's mine, and balancing it really well, because you see a lot of clinics where physios will just employ a podiatrist and they're like just offloading the stuff that they don't want to do, or if it's something that's very foot related that they don't want to treat. But I've also seen podiatrists now who are starting to employ physios, like they're doing it the other way, but I don't think they have sat down and really organized a great working relationship.
Yeah, and it's something that we have been part of as well, like working in multidisciplinary teams. Like you might have physio, podiatry, exercise physiology, dietitian, all of those under the one roof. But I think we found that whether they were places we've worked at or places we've come across, that even though they offer multidisciplinary care, they don't actually, we call it interdisciplinary care, they don't actually work together. Like they might refer to one another, and it's also from patient feedback that, they might see multiple practitioners, but the practitioners they might be on totally different pages, they're not communicating to each other. So we also found that just takes all of that out of the equation. We're right there with the patient and discussing, we're saying, I think it's this, do you think it's this? And like talking with the patient about it, instead of everyone just getting confused and not knowing what the treatment plan is. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have seen in those sort of medical centers, and everyone's working in a silo. Podiatry does podiatrist, the physio does physio, the exercise physiologist does their thing, and they don't, like you said, they might refer the occasional patient, but they don't work really close together. And I have known physios who work, say, I have seen podiatrists who work for a physio. And I said, have you ever checked that when somebody rings up and it's a podiatry appointment, that you're actually seeing them? Oh, no, I'm sure I am. So I said, get someone to ring up, pretend to be a patient, mention a problem that more than likely should be podiatry. And then they found out, no, nearly every patient gets sent to the physio first. And it's only if the physio doesn't want to treat them, then I get to see them after that.
Yeah.
Which to me is not a great working relationship.
Yeah. Which is often the end of the line as well. Like the physio has been seeing them for a while, things aren't getting better. And then they're passed over to podiatry.
Yeah. And that's when the patients have already spent the patients have already spent a lot of money, and now you're seeing them and you get the grumpy patient.
That's right.
Who's starting to run out of money, and then they don't want to pay anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down to education on our receptionists, but also of the public and the patient. So educating them that this podiatrists do treat this. When people just think it's a blanket thing that physios do all of this. So we kind of do that a bit with whether it's with our patients that we've seen, educating them what we offer, but I guess, our marketing sort of stuff like social media.
I was going to say, what's your marketing strategy? You don't have to tell everyone all your secrets, but
no, we don't have any.
But your marketing strategy when you're promoting your business, it's very much podiatry and physio working together to solve your problems.
Yeah. So we also obviously offer women's health physio, and that's a really big part of the business. But just naturally we attract women more to the business than men, which is totally fine. Females tend to be the ones that seek out healthcare more than men anyway.
Oh yeah, they listen too.
Yeah. So that doesn't so much bother us. And Luke, obviously doesn't mind whether he treats men or women. But we try and, I guess, market to what we think people need. So let's say it's Achilles calf pain or something with runners, people just think, say for running, people just think that you're meant to be in pain when you run. So education's a big thing. Did you know that this isn't normal and that this can be treated? But definitely offering that dual consult concept is people just get it because no one else does it. There are lots of physios and podiatrists in Geelong, so many, but we're the only ones, really in Australia, that kind of offer this approach. I think when people see that the benefit of it, we kind of don't really need to do too much marketing because it just works for itself. But
So are there a lot of, how many podiatrists are in Geelong, or how many physios as well?
Oh, there's heaps, hundreds, I reckon. There's so many.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's certain areas where, like with the 12-week reboot, where I've had a lot of podiatrists from the same area actually do the 12-week reboot. And it's sort of and Geelong's one of those areas.
Yeah. There are so many.
Yeah. Well, I was really surprised when we moved here how many there were.
But you've been doing really well, obviously.
Oh yeah. This population's booming, so it's not like it's an issue.
Okay. So with your marketing, do you do much marketing together, or do you independently, because you're doing women's physiotherapy problems, do you market that solely as physiotherapy, or do you always market together, or a bit of both?
Yeah, a bit of both. Yeah. We tend to, we do it all ourselves. So we don't have, there's a few, we do a few online, Google ads and stuff like that. But we'll do a bit of both. So I might do, say, an Instagram post about pelvic floor, but then I still might link it back to the foot or something like that. And, say, do you know we offer services for both of this? Sometimes Luke will just do podiatry, marketing stuff, and then we'll do the joint. So a bit of both. Yeah.
Try to all link it back together in the end, to relating it back to physio or back to podiatry.
Yeah. So your Facebook page and, say, Instagram, for example, is Physiopod. So you're promoting both things on there, not just, you don't have a separate one for physio and a separate one for podiatry.
No, it's all just the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Luke did the 12-week reboot with me, and we ran through a few things in there. I hope he shared some of what he learned with you.
Yes. Yes.
Did you find any of that helped with the physiotherapy side of things? Just curious.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't tell me too much about it, but
It's just kind of been implemented into
Yeah.
the
clinic.
symptoms of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Because
I
that's
think
one
so,
thing.
yeah.
It's one thing I say about physios. Like sometimes I talk about different professions, and I think chiropractors, no one promotes themselves like chiropractors on getting patients back, making sure people are coming back. They're just sometimes like overkill. Podiatrists are getting better. Physios are the worst profession I've seen about rebooking patients and getting them to come back to check on things. So, for example, I might say have a shoulder problem. I see the physio, and they normally say to me at the end of the visit, "We'll see how that goes, and then give us a call back." I'm like, no, make an appointment for me. If you don't book me in, it'll be another 3 months before I get back. And they never get back in touch with me and say, "So Tyson, how's that shoulder going?" Yeah, it's been 6 months, 12 months. And that always surprises me that they don't follow up on treatment.
Yeah, I think, there's definitely those sorts of physios around. I think, I've been fortunate to work in clinics where that wasn't the norm, that we were kind of taught to come up with that treatment plan from the start. So, okay, this is what you found. How are we going to fix it? And what's the time frame? How many treatments do they need? So not to the approach of, that you need 12 months worth of treatment. But okay, this is how many appointments I think you need, or like we'll do appointments this far apart and then we'll reassess it and see how it's going. But booking them in from the start, so they've got the plan. Like patients love to have a plan, and we write it down for them, just so that they feel more empowered about their condition or injury. Then so I think we're pretty good at doing that. But there's definitely some that don't.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the time before we finish up. Have you got a tip? Like I'll get a tip from each of you that if there was a podiatrist listening to this, and they might already be working with a physio, although because I know some physios listen to the podcast as well, but pretend you're talking to a podiatrist and a physio who are thinking of working together. Do you have a tip you would like to share with them? Lauren, you go first. Ladies first.
I think just talk to them about it. Like, come up with a bit of a plan as to what you want to see as well. Like, I think if you have an interest in whatever it might be, Achilles tendinopathy or something, like speaking with the physio, because you might think the physio wants to treat that, but they might not. And just coming up with, those sort of niche things that you can do really well on your own. But then, talking about, okay, but can we work together? Because I think it's just so much better for the patient outcomes are just so much better when you do work together. But I think just talking about it and just coming up with that niche area that you can, that you feel that you've got the expertise to work in. I think that would be my tip.
Okay. And Luke, what about you?
I would say from a podiatry perspective, if you're working in a physio clinic, go and speak to them, try and sort out a half hour or something. Go through patients that you might think need to go to the physio and get their opinion on what thing they might be able to help with. Because there's so much that physios know that we don't know further up the body. It'll help you and it'll help them as well. And then you'll be able to, because we kind of have assumed knowledge of foot and ankle. And then you speak to some physios and then they kind of don't know what you're talking about, all these different terminologies and things of gait and range of motion and joints and things. Sometimes they don't have as in-depth knowledge as what we do. So it's worth going to them and speaking from a podiatrist perspective. And then they'll understand a lot more of what we can do.
That makes sense.
I think it also doesn't need to be like, say, a podiatrist and a physio wanting to work in the same clinic.
No, even just as referring to each other.
And that's how we, that's what we've kind of always done. And we always have other allied health professionals that we do the same with, and personal trainers and doctors and stuff like that. So I think it's just developing those relationships. So then that physio might see a patient that they think, oh yeah, I know where to send you. I'll send you to the podiatrist. blah, blah, blah. And the same, vice versa. I think it's just developing those connections, is just so helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So like on average, this will be the last question I'm going to ask, even though I said that was the final tip from you both, is how many patients on average would you refer to each other each week? Would you have a rough idea? Would it be one a day, 2 a week, half a dozen a month?
Can be 3 or 4 in one day sometimes, depends on the day. But a couple a week, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's what, because the reason I asked that is because you might have a podiatrist that has 4 physios that they work with, and they'd be lucky if they probably got 4 referrals a month from the 4 physios. So surprised how you guys work together so well and how much you actually refer backwards and forwards. That's the importance of the podiatrist, even if they're working with physios outside of their clinic, that they've got if they can get that same arrangement or same knowledge base with each other, how many more referrals they could actually be sending and receiving.
Yeah, heaps, definitely. Yeah.
It might even be as simple as an ingrown toenail. If physios may not know that we treat those, they might think it's a GP thing.
Yeah.
They see someone coming in with their shoulder and they've got a red toe, and you say, go see the podiatrist next door.
I'm so glad we did this episode, because some of the things you've said, I think there'd be podiatrists listening to this now who will definitely be contacting the physios that they've been working with and try and open those lines of communication a bit more, and going in there and doing education sessions with them. And don't just talk about the normal stuff, is talk about one thing a bit in detail and then organize another talk to go back, and then ask them to come into your clinic and do a talk.
That's right. Yeah. Just having that communication too. So normally, like, obviously we are in the same building, so we talk to each other about it, but sending the email to them, like, I've suggested this patient come and see you. So I would normally do like a handover, like, this is what I've seen. I'd love to get your opinion on it, and then vice versa, they will then see the patient and get back to you. So because the patients obviously can get a bit lost with what we say either way. So just having that communication really clear, it's just it works.
Well, I had a friend, I was just saying, I had a friend who was a chiropractor in Cairns here, and he went back to the States, but we were really good friends. We caught up every weekend. We may even caught up during the week because we were playing sport together. He was like my best friend in Cairns at the time. I would probably get a referral from him every single day, at least one, and I'd be referring people to him because not just because we were friends. It wasn't like, I'm just trying to help you out. It's because we were always talking about it. So I knew what he wanted to treat. He knew what I wanted to treat. So I think if you can do that with someone that you're friendly with, you can get to that level with people you don't have to be socializing with, but you can build up that education.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you guys are proof.
Yeah.
You don't have to marry all your physios that you know, guys. If you're geez. Well, Lauren and Luke, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast and sharing your knowledge on how you two work together. I think this is going to be a super valuable episode for anyone that actually listens to it.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us. Yeah, been good.